Chapter 6 Evil Dispatched. Dark foreboding clouds moved like sleek specters around a warped moon, as if daring anyone to approach. They whisked slightly towards the earth and back up to the nocturnal domain. A rain released itself from its murky prison and plummeted savagely towards the earth. A rain so cold it became ice upon touching ground. Black ice that looked merely like wetness on the streets below, deceiving all who dared venture outside. The fortress now possessed by King Aeonus loomed above its island nest. Sitting at the summit of its towering mountain, it seemed unreachable. An entire city circled the stronghold in a perfect ring. The mountain city, built hundreds of years ago, once under the regime of a powerful king, thrived exceptionally regardless of its solitude. People always had work, the land was cultivatable. Industries flourished within the city, and markets were plentiful with much to gain. No one was left in deprivation. That was when the city was under the rule of the late King Jadonus. Now the people starved. From the hundreds of thousands of its population, only a few thousand remained, for they lacked the means to leave. Without the leadership of their true king, they were in desperate need of guidance. Jadonus was a decent and moral king, made superior by the collaboration of another great king, Grandolimus, who advised him of what to do in order to govern a city as great as his. King Grandolimus and Jadonus met infrequently, for the distance between them was too great, but the quality of their visits outweighed the need of frequent ones. No one expected the death of the great king. There were suspicions that it was the king's own brother, Aeonus, that assumed the guilt of murdering him. No one spoke a word of it out in the open. Only if they were safely hidden behind closed doors would anyone attain the nerve to whisper the accusation. Now the people of the ancient city, known as Sovereign's Reach, were virtually slaves behind the very walls that encircled and once protected them. The walls, a massive last defense from wars hundreds of years ago, embraced an entire city. Guard posts were set at strategic points at the top of the wall and spanned the circumference of the upper ring. Soldiers were able to scan for miles for any ships approaching from all directions. Once, in the time of King Jadonus, rare was the need to descend the great mountain for anything. Now the people must sneak away in secrecy to trek the island below for much-needed supplies. Many never returned. Rumors whisper of a great evil that guards the mountain, a beast formed of magic that allows nothing to live, attacking quickly and silently in the darkness. The Gali Gonzaro, as it was known in the native tongue of the island people, means creature of the night, unidentified in size and relentless in its pursuit to kill. Cursed days lay ahead for the people of the island. Aeonus stood alone in the bedchamber. An oval window overlooked the dark ocean that expanded as far as the eye could see. That is, if darkness hadn't permanently enshrouded the island, and only a dull, misshapen moon was left to light the outdoors. He was gazing thoughtfully out his window, his hands held loosely behind his back, when there was a knock at his door. Immediately, he walked to his scepter that was left on his bed, its black sphere emitting the green vapor. "Who calls?" he demanded in his commanding voice. "It is I, your highness, Gon Potu." It was Aeonus's head of his private guard. Originally a resident of the island below, he was once a great soldier who fought by Jadonus's side. now forced to serve his malevolent brother. I have the prisoner you requested. Aeonus squeezed the scepter until his knuckles went white. Bring him in, he said after a moment's pause. The door opened, and a dark-skinned soldier in full body armor and in obviously great form escorted a slouching, robed character into the bedchambers. Leave us, the king demanded. Upon further thought, he added, but wait by the door. I have need of you. With a bow, the soldier exited and took a stance outside the door. The slouching, robed figure inched his head upward to face his king. The dim light revealed a tormented Skniba. Dried blood encrusted his face, around his mouth. His steely gray eyes looked helplessly at his master. At this distance, King Aeonus studied his dark complexion, each wrinkle of worry and the way his mouth moved mechanically up and down. Also a native of the island below, the Isle of Golgotha, once known by its inhabitants, he had studied the art of Lun Kara, or moon magic, in the translation of man. He excelled in it and wielded the power as if it were an extension of himself. Once, seemingly eons ago, he had used it for the purpose of good. Now, under the control of Aeonus and his terrible scepter, he is forced to perform ungodly duties of magic. The scepter. How could a tyrant such as this obtain the scepter of Karato? Those who brandish it have the power to control those who wield magic. Skniba sighed at the thought. His contemplation was interrupted soon enough. Skniba, Aeonus whispered with a sneer, have you eaten today? The broken man before him nodded yes. Did you have a smoked fish? Again he nodded. How did it taste? The king roughly grabbed Skniba by the cheeks and squeezed until the remnants of a tongue protruded slightly from his lips. Next time you lie to me, you are going to want to die. He then shouted for the guard to enter. Gon Potu obeyed and closed the door behind him. You and this worm are from the same township, is that correct? Aeonus asked without taking his eyes off Skniba. Yes, your highness, the captain of the guard answered with a bit of an accent. Then you can translate to me what he writes down. It wasn't a question, but a demand. Yes, your highness. Gon Potu knew that Skniba only spoke the human tongue, but read or wrote none of it. Aeonus walked over to the large wooden desk. Bring him here. Aeonus walked over to the large wooden desk. Bring him here, he said, pointing to the chair. Gon Potu directed him towards the desk where Skniba sat grudgingly on the chair. Yellowed parchment was placed in front of him, along with a quill and ink. Now, Skniba, Aeonus's voice was cynical. Write down your answers to my questions, and Gon Potu will translate for me. Do you understand? Skniba nodded. Why hasn't the sun emerged for days? The words were venomous and spoke with obvious anger. Skniba paused. Then ever so slowly, he dipped the quill in the black ink. He wrote lethargically. The sound of the quill scratching against the parchment was the only sound in the dusty bedchamber. After a moment, he stopped writing. Aeonus snatched the parchment and handed it to the captain of the guard, who read it and swallowed hard upon finishing. What does it say? The king barked. It says, all magic used within the magnitude has a consequence. It is a result of the type of magic used, a reaction to the power of the curse. The guard looked up at Aeonus questioningly, but said nothing. How can we restore everything to how it was? Aeonus was increasingly impatient. I am tired of looking at that ghastly moon and the lack of day. Skniba began scratching at the yellow parchment once again. When he finished, Gonpotu read from it. The residue of the curse lasts for all eternity. The stalwart guard read on silently before translating, ignoring the irritated look from his king. The only other way to bring everything back to the way it was is the origin of the curse dies. Aonis shot a glance at Skniba and was surprised to see him staring back with poison in his eyes. He thought he saw the hint of a smile on his bloodied lips. Gripping the scepter with both hands, he stomped over to the oval window and glared at the horizon. "Leave us," the king ordered Gonpotu with a hiss. The guard left without question. When the door was shut again, he was alone with Skniba. He walked slowly to the mage, pointing the scepter directly at him. Skniba's face illuminated green with the power of the scepter. He was under the complete control of Aonis. "There is something you are not telling me, is that correct?" Skniba nodded, unable to do otherwise. The malicious king paced back and forth for a few minutes before stopping dead in his tracks. He moved swiftly towards Skniba, causing the helpless magic user to cringe in the chair. "The king of the elves has an offspring." The words flowed effortlessly. "Of course he does, but not for long." He shot another glance at Skniba, who sat in utter misery. "Send the eclectic wraiths to find this child of Grandolimus and slay it. I will not have anything else stand in my way." The order was spoken as if it were nothing more than a greeting to a friend. Skniba slouched helplessly in the chair. Sorrow overcame him completely. Well, guys, thanks for listening. That's the end of the chapter. Please hit the like button and leave a comment. Let me know what I can improve on. Also hit the subscribe button so you can be informed whenever I drop a new video. Thanks for watching.